Welcome to another episode of Startup Stars. I'm here with Deepak Solanki of Vélmenni. And you guys are doing, well, first off, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So you guys are doing something very interesting. It's called LiFi. It's
Right.
pretty much just creating transmitting the internet via light bulbs.
Exactly.
So where does that come from? How do you get up one day and go, I want this light bulb to give me some internet?
Sure. So I'll tell you the story.
Uh.
So I myself is an electronics and communication engineer. So
Okay.
I was always fascinated about wireless technologies.
Okay.
So I am an amateur radio operator, which means I can transmit wireless data. So I have obtained a license,
Okay.
and I was the first one from my own city to obtain a amateur radio license.
Okay.
So I always had that keen interest in the wireless technologies. So when I finished my engineering, after that I moved to IIT Bombay to do research on robotics. So
Okay.
I had a keen interest in robotics as well.
Mm.
So from robotics I moved to wireless communication when I started the company, and the idea was to explore different wireless technologies.
Wait, so you started the company straight out of college?
No, I took a 1 year gap and I worked as a research associate in IIT Bombay.
Okay.
So I've spent a year in IIT Bombay, and then I realized it's doing research in a lab is way too slow. So maybe let's do a startup and build something interesting. So that was the whole idea.
Okay.
So that's how we started. And back in 2012 I started the company. So in the first year of starting up, the whole thing was what to do. So that's the biggest question.
Right,
You know,
yeah.
I had it in mind. I wanted to do something interesting and something new. So started exploring different technologies, and I went back to the wireless communication and figured out, okay, this could be a new technology which can actually complement the current wireless infrastructure.
Right.
So at that point of time, we used to call it visible light communication,
Mm.
because we were utilizing the visible part of light spectrum to send wireless data.
Oh, so sorry, okay. So it's just
Yeah.
literally light bulbs. And stuff like
Exactly. So and then that's how it all started. So we did the first experiment on the technology, was able to transmit an audio signal. So that was the first experiment.
Okay.
And once it was fascinating because we were utilizing the same light for transmitting data, which we use for illumination. So
Correct, yeah. So you was telling me before we started this
Right.
that the fiber cables that go around everywhere, the internet cables or whatever, use light. They're
Yeah.
just in a cable.
Exactly. So we
Yeah.
made it wireless,
Hmm.
in a simple term. So it's a wireless, you can say, a fiber.
Okay.
So and then we send data. That's how it all started. And
Okay.
eventually, in the last couple of years, we built up a product where now you can access high-speed internet through light. So with the same light bulb that we have it in home, we can plug in our plug and play LiFi access point, and then it converts them into a data transmission
Okay,
system.
so it's literally it's take out the other light bulb, put your light bulb in, stick something in your computer, and you're ready to go.
Exactly.
Okay.
So even though you need not to change your current lighting infrastructure, we created a retrofit system.
Hmm.
So it goes in between your light source and the power supply.
Oh, so it's
Yeah.
literally it's not even like you need to overhaul your house.
Exactly.
You just change the light bulb.
It's a extra added device which we need to plug it to the light source.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
it.
perfect.
Yeah.
So, but I've got to ask why do you need this? Why can't we just use normal Wi-Fi routers? What is the big advantage?
Sure. So if we compare different wireless technology, right now we use either Wi-Fi or we use 4G.
Okay.
So to access internet on
Hmm.
our smart devices. So Wi-Fi has its specific advantages and disadvantages. Same goes with the 4G.
Okay.
So if we look at the current scenario, everybody is now getting used to smartphones.
Right.
The number of smartphone user has exponentially increased in last couple of years.
Especially because of Geo and everything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And now the IoT is also coming into the picture. So everything is getting connected to internet now.
Right.
So we are having different sensors which are generating data, and that it's getting connected to internet. So if you look at the current overall wireless technologies,
Hmm.
the overall spectrum is getting congested now. So the Wi-Fi spectrum is already congested.
Hmm.
We used to have 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi routers. Now we are having 2.4 gigahertz plus 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi routers.
Okay. So you're saying literally there's too many
Literally,
people trying
too
to get
many
on the
people
internet.
are getting into the internet and they are accessing it through Wi-Fi's.
Right.
Wi-Fi caters more than 50% of the market demand right now for wireless
Wow.
communication.
Okay.
So this overall spectrum is getting congested, and licensing a new spectrum for different governments is a very challenging task.
Yeah, it's very
And,
expensive. You have to go
it's
through all the different channels.
Exactly. So it takes a lot of time. So we thought, okay, our technology can complement the current wireless infrastructure.
Hmm.
It can create a parallel technology for transmitting data. So that's the advantage. and then it's bringing up any extra things to the system.
Wait,
One
sorry,
thing
so
is
just to be clear, what you're saying is right now the internet, different Wi-Fi data, whatever, it's getting a little congested because there's only so much internet there
limited
is to
spectrum.
give out,
Yeah,
or at least the channel for getting internet is limited.
exactly.
So what LiFi does is just broadens the bottleneck.
Exactly.
So more people can access the same internet.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's one thing that LiFi is bringing. It's a parallel technology utilizing a different part of free spectrum. So this whole spectrum is free. It's unlicensed. So
correct.
We can utilize the same light source and just get the internet connectivity.
Yeah, everyone's got light in their house.
Exactly.
Correct.
Exactly.
So what about the other? Like, what are the other advantages of LiFi? I mean, it makes it, there's more people who can use it, but that's
sure.
it.
No, the other thing is we can achieve way higher bandwidth and the speed as compared to Wi-Fi with the light source.
Okay.
So you can modulate light on a very high frequency. So in the future we can achieve more in speeds in tens of gigabits per second.
Wow.
That's a potential on the technology.
Okay, so you can get more people on and you can get them all going faster.
Exactly.
All right.
So that's and with the Wi-Fi we have limitations. So after a certain speed you can't achieve go
yeah
up.
So even if the cable is going at whatever speed, 10
right.
gigabits,
right.
then the Wi-Fi itself is only 25
exactly
50, yeah.
So at the moment a generic Wi-Fi router may give you up to 100 Mbps, not more than that. So and that is also not distributed equally. There are so many black spots in the house. In one corner of the house you'll get a higher speed, in the other corner you'll get a lower speed.
Right.
So but with the light we can have an equally distributed network within a house or in an office or anywhere. That's another advantage on the technology.
Okay. So get rid of blind spots, more people can use it, and it's fast.
Exactly.
But you said something interesting before we got on camera is it helps with security.
Right.
How does it help with security?
So LiFi brings one of the one extra added layer of the security in the system. One thing is light cannot penetrate through your walls.
Okay.
Right. So but Wi-Fi can. Any radio system can. So if somebody is sitting inside office, your data will always remain inside your office if you're utilizing a LiFi system, or even in a conference room, for example. Somebody wanted to access their own specific data, highly secure data, we can utilize LiFi for that. But with the Wi-Fi, you can't restrict that.
But that sounds more like you've got an annoying neighbor who keeps hacking your Wi-Fi. Isn't that just the main problem you're solving?
Exactly. That's a similar thing.
But is that like a really big problem in society?
Depending upon the use cases, specifically for enterprise or offices, it's required actually. Extra security is required. In the banks, for example, they still use LAN-based infrastructure to have more security in the system, so that nobody can hack into their networks.
Okay, so get the different account numbers and all that.
Exactly. Plus, there are several areas where Wi-Fi's have limitations or they are prohibited. For example, in the medical healthcare industry, so in the hospitals, in the ICUs, or in scanning rooms, the Wi-Fi's are prohibited because they are radio-based systems and they are prone to electromagnetic interference. So they can interfere with the different machinery which is already there. So LiFi can play an important role there. We can have the connectivity, secured connectivity within those scenarios.
Oh, that's very interesting because that's actually talking about improving on systems like MRIs and all.
Exactly. Plus, industries like aviation, where Wi-Fi has a lot of regulations inside an aircraft, you can stream data and movies through light, and LEDs are already there inside an aircraft. So we can utilize the similar infrastructure to create a better wireless solution.
Well, so that's incredible. So it goes everywhere. But there's one more thing you were telling me about, is how you plan to use it in general infrastructure on streets. How does that?
Sure. So the current aspect that we have discussed was all indoor. So in the indoor scenarios, we can have connectivity from the light source to the smart devices. Now let's look at the another aspect on the technology where we can utilize this for the creating a backhaul infrastructure for 4G or 5G networks in future. So right now, if you look at the 4G and 5G infrastructure, these telecom operators has to run down optical fiber cables within the cities to connect these multiple mobile towers, basically. So that's one of the challenging tasks. And plus for the ISP providers also, they wanted to bring broadband to your home, they have to run cables everywhere. They have a base station, from there they are running cables to your house, right? So this last mile connectivity is quite challenging for anybody, for a telecom operator plus an ISP provider. So what we can do is we can utilize the current street lamp infrastructure within the cities to create the backbone of the whole 4G and 5G network. So that in the areas where you cannot lay down a fiber cable, we can just replace that. You can have our plug and play devices which can give you the higher bandwidth and the speeds, and they can actually create a backhaul infrastructure within the smart city, or even though in the current cities as well. So that's a big use case for the technology.
So yeah, that's a pretty incredible thing. I mean, we've already got a problem with a lot of our cities don't have lights.
Exactly.
So you give them more of an incentive just to give us street lights, and then on top of that, you get internet from those street lights.
Exactly.
Okay.
And in the long run, when the technology is adopted on a mass scale, when it is there, when it becomes a part of your smartphone and the laptops, then we can actually utilize these street lamps to give you high-speed connectivity on roads as well. So the cars in the future can communicate to the street lamp and can get the connectivity, or even though you can have public internet infrastructure available through the lighting which is there.
Yeah, you can get properly accurate maps of how far and where you can go and how long it will take you.
Right.
Wow, that's incredible. So now let's take it back a bit. So these are all being grand ideas for the future, but right now is the technology there, or is it just an idea?
No, it's not an idea. We have a proof of concepts ready. Plus, we have built up these devices. So we have our devices ready with us. It's a plug-and-play system. You plug a Ethernet cable from an ISP provider to our access point, so it gets internet connectivity and goes to the light source. And we have a receiver. You plug it to your USB port, and then you can access internet through light. Right now in my office, every day I use internet through light. I turn off my Wi-Fi as an office and just use LiFi for accessing internet. Wow. It's for like rigorous testing, basically.
So you've got that. Now you say you've got to plug in a USB thing, right? So that's not feasible. You can't expect everyone to go out and buy a special piece. Right. So how do you solve that problem? So
in the long run, if you look at the Wi-Fi adoption, we used to have those Wi-Fi or 4G or 3G dongles.
Right.
Remember? Yeah. So we are on that similar stage where we have these dongles. You plug it to your USB port and
Tata
get the
Docomo kind of stuff.
Exactly, like Tata Docomo. So now the technology is moving towards a standardization process. Okay. So you have IEEE study groups which are reviewing the technology, and we are working towards a standard globally with the other LiFi companies and the other interested players. So once the standards are out, then the smartphone manufacturer and the chip manufacturers, they can adopt the technology within the smartphone itself. So in the future, a few years down the line, you will be having a LiFi connectivity option in the smartphones. Right now we have Wi-Fi and the Bluetooth. You will be having a LiFi in the phone. You just turn on the LiFi and then get the access through light.
Okay, so just be like another sensor in the phone.
Exactly, it will be like another sensor in the phone, in the laptop.
So are there a lot of people across the planet doing this, or is it just you?
A couple of companies in this space. We have 3-4 big players who are working on this technology. Philips has recently launched their product into that domain, which shows that the market is adopting it. And Philips is one of the largest lighting company in the world. So market is adopting it. There are a couple of more players. From India, we are the only company who are into this space, working in since last 4 years now, focusedly on this technology.
So how receptive is the industry, like the light industry, the systems industry, network industries? Are they happy when you come to them and say, I've got this new technology, or they put you down?
Now they are very much interested in the technology. A few years back, it was very difficult for us to convince them to adopt this technology. But the way the technology has evolved in the last couple of years, and they have seen that there is a specific need of the technology for specific use cases. Correct. So now they are adopting it. So we are already working with a couple of lighting companies in India to integrate our solution within their lighting infrastructure. Plus, the networking companies are also taking interest in doing proof of concept in the technology. Right. So even though the telecom operators are now interested to take it further and to understand what is the real value that we can bring on the table. So we are doing multiple proof of concept to take this further.
Okay. Well, it's been a very interesting conversation, and I can't wait for the day where I can drive down the road and access Wi-Fi at the same time, or LiFi, should I say? So Deepak, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah.
And we'll be looking out for Vélmenni in the future.
Sure. Thank you.